Hey everybody, it's Fat Daddy Sambo with those nerdy metal guys, and it's time for another lunchtime album review. Today's album comes to us from Amazon Unlimited's Hard Rock and Heavy Metal New Release section. And what we have is Gygax is the band, and their new release is High Fantasy. And this basically appealed to me because one, the album cover is very fantasy, reminded me of the cover of maybe a Dungeons and Dragons book or an old Conan novel. So a lot of nostalgia there for me. The name Gygax, obviously a reference to Gary Gygax, who was the creator of Dungeons and Dragons, or at least one of the first authors of the game manuals. These guys come out of Ventura, California. They're a four-piece band, very much rooted in 70s metal style, non-Sabbath 70s metal style, which is a little harder, a little more unusual to find. Four-man band made up of Eric Harris on bass and vocals, Bryant Throckmorton, excuse me, on guitar, Armand John Lizzie, also known as Wes, on guitar, and then Justin Dempsey on drums. And if I've got those names wrong, please feel free to call me out. I'm simply going by what I was able to find on the band's page. This particular group looks like they formed in about 2009 by everything I was able to see on their page. This particular album came out on 6/21/19, so it's relatively new, still within the past 2 months. It was, I have to admit, it was a little further down the list on the new releases, given the age of the release. But I spent a few days listening to this. Normally I'll pick an album and listen to it for the morning, and then do a review, and this really struck me Friday, and I've been listening to it all weekend, in the car, around the house, as I'm doing work, doing progress reports, things like that. Very much, if you were in the style of the 70s metal, again, if you were to take Mark II Deep Purple and get rid of John Lord and Richie Blackmore, and were to put in Brian Robertson and Scott Gorham from that Jailbreak era Thin Lizzy, this is basically what you get with Gygax. It's a perfect marriage of Deep Purple and Thin Lizzy stylings. Songs are all roughly in the 5-minute range. I'm sorry I didn't do a complete time stamp on this particular album. This is a little longer. It's about a It's about a 9-song album, and each song is clocking in between 4.5 and 6 minutes, so it's going to take a little bit longer. This is another one I found it not to be a great album to take to the gym. It's a very steady-paced album. Unfortunately, it's not the pacing that I like for my cardio workouts. It's also not necessarily heavy enough of a beat for me to keep me driving during a heavy weightlifting set. However, for other things, it is absolutely perfect. I used it while cutting the grass, went for a walk with it. As I said, I used it for background as I was driving. Really an enjoyable album. The lyrical content, as you can imagine, is very rooted in D&D imagery. You can get this from the song titles. One of my favorites is Mage Lust. Really grabbed me off the top. Eric Harris's vocals are very much reminiscent of Ian Gillan. Not quite as raspy, but and he didn't. On no song did I hear him hit the high points, the screams that you would imagine from Machine Head era Ian Gillan, but still very much reminiscent of that. If I had to pick a particular track off this album, or a couple that really got me, Mage Lust is probably my favorite. Lightbender is the album opener that it's a good way to kick it off. It's very up-paced, helps to set the trend for the album, and then Spell Shaker would have been my next one. But you can look at the song titles and see things very reminiscent if you've ever played Dungeons & Dragons or any fantasy role-playing game. Hive Mind, Mage Lust, Mirror Image, Spell Shaker, The Eyes Have It, Lightbender. The titles just really ring from that D&D particular styling. Me personally, I can see me keeping this in my rotation. I remember getting into Thin Lizzy when I was in high school. Unfortunately, the band was in their waning years at that time, but I remember the excitement of discovering Jailbreak, and then finding albums like Black Rose or Johnny the Fox. And this would fall right into that same musical styling, not necessarily lyrical content, but musical styling. So today's album again is Gygax's High Fantasy. I highly recommend it. If you're looking for something heavier, we'll be getting back into something more heavy tomorrow, but if you're looking for that 70s style metal, this is definitely going to fit the bill. It will be perfect for you. So again, I'm Fat Daddy Sambo with those Nerdy Metal Guys, and I hope you have a fantastic day.